On November 10, 2018, in the rural town of Ulville, Iowa, everyone knew Amy Mullis. Amy was a young and beautiful 39-year-old woman and a mother of 3 children. One day, Amy's death shocked the entire town and raised questions about what had happened to her. The police, however, had suspicions about the circumstances of her death. What happened and what was the cause of death? Watch this video to know the details of this crime. On the day of the incident, a man named Todd Mullis called 911 for help, reporting that his wife had been in an accident and they were on their way to the hospital. Amy was lying in the back seat with their son Tristan while Todd drove to the hospital. During the drive, Amy stopped breathing. Todd stopped the car to perform CPR, but it was to no avail. Amy never regained consciousness. When the police asked Todd what had happened, he said he didn't know how it happened, but that she had fallen on a corn rake, a very sharp agricultural tool with 4 tines that had impaled her. Todd said he managed to remove the rake and took her to the hospital, but investigators were skeptical of the story because the corn rake had 4 tines, while Amy's body had 6 wounds, making it hard to believe it was just an accident. Amy was found in the family's pig shed by their 13-year-old son Tristan, lying on the ground with the corn rake's tines embedded in her back. The investigations into the case have begun. The investigator said he immediately went to the barn where Amy was found and noticed some drops of blood on the ground but nothing else. Afterward, the investigators started looking into the couple's relationship and discovered that Amy had an affair with Todd 5 years ago. Following this, both Amy and Todd decided to try to mend their relationship and sought counseling. Amy left her job as a nurse at the hospital to work on the farm. Todd said she wanted to spend more time with her family. However, according to her friend Frances, Amy was forced to stay on the farm as per an agreement between her and Todd. Todd took a long time to trust Amy again. Frances added that Amy lived like a prisoner, with Todd deciding whom she could meet or go out with, and setting a schedule for her outings and return home. Todd's version of their relationship was completely different from what Amy's friends said. He told the investigators that their marriage was very happy and they were always together, but this was not the complete truth. In July 2018, 5 years after Amy's affair, Todd noticed a change in his wife. Through phone records, he discovered that Amy was having an affair with a man named Jerry Fraser, who worked with them on the farm. Todd couldn't see the text messages between them, which totaled 128 messages. But when he confronted Fraser, he claimed that nothing was happening between them and that the messages were work-related and sometimes about children's activities. Todd also asked Fraser's wife, who told him that there was nothing between them and that her marriage was very happy, with no doubts about her husband. However, the investigators soon discovered that Amy and Fraser were having an affair, making the motive for Amy's murder clear to them. In September 2019, the trial began. Gerald, Todd Mullis' lawyer, agreed with the prosecutors that Amy had been killed, but he claimed that Todd was not the murderer. When the doctor who was on emergency duty when Amy arrived at the hospital was called to testify, he stated that there were 6 wounds on her back, making Todd's story unbelievable. The forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy was then called. She noted a small scratch in the middle of Amy's upper lip, as well as injuries to her face, hand, and knees, which could indicate a struggle before her death. She also pointed out that the 6 wounds on Amy's back had 2 different directions, suggesting that the rake had been thrust into her body at least twice. So, how did Amy die? Was it really just an accident, or was it a premeditated murder? During the trial, Amy and Todd's son, Tristan, was called to testify about what he saw on the day of the incident. Tristan began his testimony by talking about the close relationship he had with his father, noting that they often went hunting and worked on the farm together. On the day of the incident, Tristan and his father were working on the farm, and Amy joined them later. Todd was busy bringing water for the pigs while Amy was carrying a bucket of water and cleaning the lights. Amy then told Tristan that she felt dizzy and went down the ladder. According to Tristan, he asked Amy to go home and rest, and suggested that she take the pet carrier on her way if she could. He and his father continued working together for an hour and a half. Later, when Tristan went to an office at the front of the farm and looked out the window, he noticed that the pet carrier was not in its expected place. Todd then asked Tristan to check on his mother in the pig barn. When Tristan went to the barn, he found his mother lying on the ground with the rake's tines embedded in her back. He screamed for his father, who came and told Tristan to get the family truck. Since the barn door was narrow, Todd had to remove the corn rake from Amy's body, place her in the back seat next to Tristan, and drive to the hospital. When the police asked Todd about what happened, he said he wasn't sure but assumed that Amy felt dizzy and fell on the rake. Tristan told the police that his father had been with him the whole time, working together on the farm. If Todd wasn't involved in Amy's death, then who was? There must have been someone else who could enter the farm and had a connection with the Mullis family. That person was Jerry Frasher, who was having an affair with Amy. He might have had his own reasons for wanting Amy out of his life, as he had a wife and children and did not want to leave his family. Amy posed a significant threat to him, giving him the motive to kill her. Todd loved working on his farm and didn't go out with Amy much, which led her to seek attention elsewhere. When she received attention from Frasher, Amy quickly responded. Their relationship, initially work-related, gradually turned personal, then romantic and sexual. They would meet secretly once or twice on the farm and sometimes in hotel rooms. According to Amy's friend, Amy had strong feelings for Frasher and planned to make their relationship last. She even talked about ending her marriage with Todd to marry Frasher. However, after Todd discovered the phone records and started asking questions, Frasher became nervous and began to avoid her, but they continued to meet. Returning to the trial, Fraser stated that at the time of the incident, he was at his home in Animos, 45 minutes away. He cited his college-aged son, who told investigators that they woke up together that morning, spent most of the day working, and then watched the university football team. When investigators tracked Fraser's cell phone at the time of Amy's murder, it was indeed in Animos, which cleared him of the charges. The investigators then turned their attention back to Todd Mullis because Amy wanted a divorce, which would potentially cost him half of his assets, providing a motive for her murder. They began to focus on Todd's actions on the day Amy was killed, such as sending his son to the pig barn after Amy had been gone a long time to get the cart, which she was supposed to have returned with already. Why was his order so specific, and why didn't he tell his son to look for his mother in general? And how did he know where she was? All this led the prosecution to believe Todd wanted someone else to find Amy to exonerate himself. But were there moments when Tristan lost sight of his father? Todd Mullis was the main suspect, but his strong alibi was being with his son Tristan the entire time. Tristan initially told authorities his father was with him the whole time, but everything changed when Tristan was re-interviewed. Tristan then told police he might have lost sight of his father several times when he went to get water, estimating he was gone for less than a minute each time. However, during court questioning, Tristan couldn't estimate the exact time he was away from his father, which led the prosecution to insist Todd had ample opportunity to kill Amy. There was still room for doubt, as Tristan said he saw no blood on Todd, and that Todd didn't act differently at any time while they worked together on the farm. The defense argued it was impossible for Todd to go to the barn, stab his wife with a corn rake multiple times, and return without a drop of blood on him and remain calm and normal in such a short period when his son was absent. Investigators had no physical evidence linking Todd to the crime scene, but they discovered that the surveillance camera system on the Mullis farm didn't record any footage on the day of Amy's death. One camera, however, did record footage the day after the incident. Did Todd delete the recording? Investigators also found a series of disturbing internet searches on Todd's device, including searches on what happened to adulterers throughout history, which often resulted in death, making Todd's position very precarious. Todd was questioned in court for 3 hours, where he explained the lack of surveillance footage by claiming that cats might have knocked the antennas off the windowsill by accident. There were no recordings for about 2 weeks leading up to Amy's death, and the reason one camera started working the day after was that Todd noticed the antenna had fallen and put it back in place. When asked by the defense about the search history on his phone, Todd denied involvement, claiming that everyone in the family, including Amy, used the device. After hearing all the testimonies and about 7 hours of deliberation, the jury found Todd Mullis guilty of first-degree murder. After his conviction, Todd sought new defense and demanded another trial, but the request was denied, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This case was a tragedy in every sense of the word. 3 children lost not only their mother but their father as well, and were left alone. Was the verdict fair despite the lack of substantial direct evidence against Todd? And if Todd was indeed the killer, did the unfaithful spouse deserve such a fate?